Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thank you as always for tuning back in. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Layla, the Lenormand reader, and today folks we are doing a new pick-a-card reading. I won't be doing a 3D reading today. I'll be doing a 3x5 extended portrait. I'll be doing 3 of them, one with each of the decks here. What is the pick-a-card reading about today? Well, I want you to focus on an issue that you have in your life, and the reading is going to be about how it gets resolved, how it moves forward, and if it is resolved. I think the if and the how are actually part and parcel of the same question. So tune into a certain situation in your life that you feel hasn't been moving forward or progressing in a way that you want. It could be a situation where something has fallen out or through. It could be something that's on a standstill or something that you feel can be improved on or that you'd like to see better outcomes for. So it's really specific to you. Now, we are going to do one reading with the Silhouettes deck, one reading with Titania's Fortune cards, and one reading with the Palimpsest. So feel free to pause the video to see which deck you want to tune into for this reading, and you will find the timestamps in the box like I said. So with this said, let's go ahead and start your pick-a-card. Okay, this is for the Silhouettes deck. We are doing a 3x5 like I said. Of course my deck is shuffled. I just like to do a hand over hand quick before laying out the 3x5. And like I said, this is an extended portrait. Let's deal out your cards. Okay, here is the Silhouettes deck cards laid out in the 3x5, and obviously there is a very clear focus on relationships because we have both the man and the woman in the cards. Now, we also have the moon and sun, by the way, right next to the man and woman. So this is a very curious and a very special indication here. What's interesting is we have the man next to the moon, and the moon tends to be feminine and the man masculine, and the woman next to the sun, and the sun tends to be masculine. We have the man and woman and the moon and sun. So it's a really interesting way the cards are coming together here, really highlighting the emphasis on the relationship. Now, how the relationship plays out for you in the resolution of this situation, it's really going to depend on your specifics. Be sure you leave me some comments so that we can go over the cards together as well. Now, there are some very beautiful cards in the 3x5. We start off with the star, which is always really powerful to have such a bright card as the first card. And I really like this line here with the clover on the far right column here, really wrapping up in a beautiful way. We also have the sun and flowers, so these are also very bright cards. So there's lots to read in the 3x5. Of course, I'm not going to get into every possible line that we can read or structure, but we're definitely going to pick out the strong ones and the main ones, and we'll put together this 3x5. What's looking like an exciting 3x5. We do have a couple of really challenging cards actually up here, and I have to say that this is probably the most challenging combination of the deck. It's interesting that it comes with the book. We'll see how the cards weave together, but it's also nice to have the star earlier, and like I said, it wraps up pretty strongly. Okay, lots we can read, even from like a bird's eye view, but I suggest we just get into the details right away. So I like to start with the corner cards, the star and the anchor. So this is a very positive conclusion. The anchor really strengthens this star element. Notice how the star is high up in the sky and the anchor is way down in the earth. So I really feel that together it really brings down and helps you manifest the goals, and it's also materializing your aspirations. Your hopes really materialize. It's a very clear combination in this sense, and I think it's a very beautiful one too. The Lily and Book, this can be read in a few ways. Both of them are sort of open cards. They have a lot of possibilities. The Lily, as you know, is about the longer term, your life path, and the Book is about knowledge and research and all things in relation to that. And also there's an element of mystery with the Book. Now, with the Lily, we could be looking at a new life chapter in this kind of big way, and I think this could be applying well with the question that we're asking. And it can also point to a bit of a mystery here, or a phase where there's some unknown factors that need to play out. And also this can be about your personal development, your education, your projects that you are pursuing, maybe as things are in process of being resolved with this situation. So the corner cards are strong, especially with this beautiful first pair here. Let's look at the central cards. We have the Man and the Moon and the Coffin. Now, I have to say that this can point to an ending. And so the way it resolves can be an ending of sorts. I'm gonna reserve a final conclusion at this stage because we have more lines to draw into this. But it's hard to miss the column here where the Coffin T crosses the Scythe and the Sun. Now, the Scythe and Coffin is a very sharp combination of an ending. It is what many authors read as the death combination. The Sun, though, is one of the brightest cards of the deck, and so I feel this is a happy conclusion and also a relief and also an ability to release yourself from the situation. So I think at this stage we could be looking at an ending, and the way the situation resolves is that probably you go separate ways. The Moon with the Coffin is about a phase that is ending. That's through the phases of the moon. And with the Man here, it could be something that ends for him or something that ends between the two of you. I am going to hold off on this just yet because there are other cards and lines that are going to come in that we need to add to this. Obviously, this is a big spread. So let's get into the big lines now. Let's look at this challenging top row, or I would say a mysterious top row. So we have the star that kicks off the line. Obviously, this is a very bright card. By itself, it can sort of attenuate a little bit the challenges that we see with the Whip and Scythe. We have the Mountain. This can be a place abroad. It can be something online. It can also be an obstacle, especially with cards like these. Now, what's nice about the Whip and Scythe being with the Mountain is that these cards are so strong and aggressive that they can sort of, they can challenge the Mountain and break through it. It's like there's the energy and the force that is needed to break through this wall that is represented by the Mountain. And so this can be a very relieving experience and situation. We also have the Book on the other side of the Scythe. Now, I would have preferred the Scythe to be on this side of the book, but it also works pretty strongly that something that was maybe not revealed or a mystery can be figured out. I also think that the cards could be advising you to get to the bottom of something, and so you might want to dig in a little bit, do some research, and maybe do this a little bit aggressively. But I can also suggest that there's we can't read these cards brightly like this all the way. The Whip and Scythe are very strong, and together they suggest something pretty challenging. And so it's possible that there is yet a confrontation. There is something needs to come out into the open. It might need to be forced open. I feel that, because of the Mountain and Book, it could have been like really on hold for a while, and it needs to come out. I like the Star because it really helps with that, and we also have other cards that are going to help with that too. But it's very likely that what comes out is not all that welcome, right? It can be something shocking, it can be something challenging, it can also bring up the issues, like really showing through what the issues were. And so that can be a bit challenging, and that can be, it could also be something that you're pursuing. And I do think there is a strong suggestion to pursue this and to get to the bottom of it. Let's leave it to that for this line. Let's move on to the second line. We have the Man in this line with the three cards that we just read. We have the Garden and the Clover. Now, this is sounding like an absence or someone who's away. It sounds like there is no access because of the Coffin on the other side of the Garden. The Garden can represent a place maybe that you had in common with this person. It can be a certain environment. And with these cards here, Man, Moon, and Coffin, it sounds like things were uneventful or not much was happening in this environment, and that there's like, an absence. So this person is away, and probably probably going within, doing his own thing, and rethinking matters. If the moon were outside of the coffin and garden, it could have been possibly some kind of invitation or an opportunity to get together, but the moon is within the coffin and the garden with this man. So I feel this is someone who needs to spend time with himself and, you know, just tune in and, you know, sort of evolve in a certain way. And so this is where I feel that there's no access and it's not really clear what is happening. The clover is a really nice card on the other side of this, and it is a good idea to let this be. There's a good reason why this is happening, and you don't need to also worry too much about why this person is taking time out or going away. I can also add, and it's hard not to see this, that an ending is in view, and an ending with this person, this situation, this involvement is in view. It's kind of come to a close, and it's actually for the best. You know, it's interesting because I feel that a bit like we have the star at the outset here, we have the clover at the end in the second line, and the 4 cards before the clover, as a bit like the 4 cards after the star, have challenging aspects and ending aspects. So it's hard not to see that this is going to end, and I think it could lead to a parting because of, you know, the coffin with the garden. Still, it's for the best, and this is how it should wrap up. Like we said, we are layering the lines, and then we'll draw a final conclusion after we've read most of the lines. The bottom row is the brightest, probably, well, there's lots of bright lines. It's the brightest row, but there are other bright columns. So there are many bright lines. This is the brightest row. We have the lily flowers, the sun, and the anchor. These 3 cards are very bright. The other 2 are neutral. We have the woman in the middle here. As the man can represent you or the other person, the woman can represent you or the other person. And of course, what we're seeing here is really the dynamic, not who is who as much, because that depends on your specifics. So the lily and flowers, along with the sun and anchor, I really feel there's like a sense of rejuvenation. Things pick up. There is like a sense of new life. Forgiveness is very likely as well with the flowers. And the sun and anchor are very beautiful for a positive conclusion. So we saw the star and anchor as part of the first corner cards. So this can be a really positive line that helps turn things around. The flowers is a card that can renew matters. So if it's not an ending forever, it can be the end of a phase and a renewal in the connection. That is possible. And that's why I said I wanted to hold off before I can sort of judge towards which scenario the cards are tipping more. But this beautiful line really refreshes life, a sense of enthusiasm, optimism. It's also really good for success all around and a positive conclusion and a positive completion with the anchor here. So that is a line that tells us that it will be resolved, and it will be resolved in a very positive way. I'm also attracted to this column here because of the beautiful clover, and like I said, it's really nice to see it on the right hand side because tableau layouts, they tend to go from left to right, with the left parts being the earlier aspects of the story, sometimes the past, and then the right columns, they tend to be associated with later or future-most, sometimes outcome aspects of a reading. So notice that we have this column and this row, you know, they meet at the anchor, which T crosses the star. So I feel that this really gives us reason to think that things are going to be resolved in a very positive way. We have some of the brightest cards in these lines and structures. The star, flowers, sun, and clover. These are some of the brightest cards of the deck. At the same time, I can't say that the path to this is easy. You know, we do have challenges in the other lines as well. So it's looking like a bumpy road, but not without a positive conclusion. So a positive conclusion is in view. And that is a lovely column. Earlier, we have the star, garden, and lily. Now, I feel that there's going to be an opportunity to meet with this person, or a situation where there's an opportunity to get together. And that is going to create the space to resolve the situation. These are also cards that are great for work, for business, for your projects and your involvements in the community. They can point to success and popularity. The Star and Garden is one of those, and actually the Flowers and Garden is one of those. The Flowers and Sun is also one of those. So we have several combinations that point to this idea of outwardness and success on a bigger scale. So that too can be suggested here. The Man between the Mountain and the Flowers, this is a really positive combination for a return of someone. So the mountain, like we said, can point to a location, a different place, but it can also suggest this idea of distance, whether it's physical or metaphorical. And the idea here is, again, this coming back. So I do think that there is going to be that opportunity to get together, to meet, to go back to a place, to go back to this issue, is very much highlighted here. That is part of the resolution. This is a bit of a challenging combination here with the Whip. The Moon helps soften this a little bit, and we have the Woman. So it sounds like there is, again, that confrontation that needs to happen, which, like I said, within that space. But again, the Moon being a bit of a softer card, and it's nice to see it closer to the Woman, and the Whip separating the Whip from the Woman. And so it helps soften this energy, but I still think that there's going to be a confrontation or a need to deal with the issue in a more direct way. The Scythe, Coffin, and Sun is, like we said, a pretty sharp combination for an ending. I love the Sun in here, especially at the bottom. And so, like I suggested, it can point to the end of a phase, the end of the chapter that was the issue, and a renewal and a healing. Certainly a healing is in the cards. So this is a very beautiful message. So it's possible that there is forgiveness, letting go, a release of the chapter, and it's very possible that the relationship is saved. And I am looking at these corner cards here because, the Anchor is like the final card where, the whole reading comes through from top to bottom, left to right. I like this card in a portrait. It is part of the first key diagonal. So this line in a portrait, and it's 3x9, like not with these. It tends to be a very strong line because it has the two key cards and then the final card here where everything sort of gathers. In a 3x5, obviously it's bigger, so we don't have like this diagonal here. We have more stuff going on, but it's still a potent card and a potent message for how the whole thing sort of trickles down into it. And the Anchor is a card of security. It's about staying, keeping. And so I feel that with these cards, I'm tending more towards the idea of being able to save the relationship. Again, I'm not saying that this is necessarily done in a smooth or easy way. The confrontation needs to happen, but there's still an opportunity and a release and a healing, like we said. And like we said a few times, there is a very positive conclusion here. The Book and Clover are quite curious together. The book is that element of the chapter closing, the element of something that needs to come out into the open. And with the Clover, certainly it does, or at least in part. And the thing about it is that it is lucky. And so the challenges can be turned around, and you will find that you're able to overcome the challenges and also come across some really helpful information. So it can be also a matter of luck of how you come across it, like by accident. That is possible also with the Clover. So you might be privy to some secrets or some details that will give you a lot of confidence for how you move forward and how this situation resolves. So these are some pretty exciting columns. We saw the challenging ones here, but when we see what happens before and after, I feel that the cards really help overcome the challenges. I'm not saying it's going to be the easiest confrontation or conversation, but it certainly has good outcomes, and it certainly helps with healing and relieving oneself from the stuckness of the situation. And also there's probably going to be some interesting information that you come through, if not secrets, that help you really see this probably with a renewed and refreshed perspective. So far so good. Let's look at the key diagonals. And obviously the first one I want to look at is this one here. These two diagonals. Very interesting. I'm getting some new ideas. We have the man and woman together with this star, but then we have the coffin and book. So this is a closure of a chapter. I wonder if this is in relation to a relationship. And here's what I'm thinking. Maybe it's not your relationship. Maybe there's a third-party relationship. I think this third-party relationship can end. And if that's the scenario, when that third-party relationship ends, that's probably the news you get. It opens the door for a new chapter with your person here, with that third party out of the way, or that issue with the third party out of the way. And so it sounds like you gain the advantage, which is very clear from the clover and the bottom row. That is one possibility. The other possibility is the one that is more general, the idea that there is a healing and a closure of the chapter. So it sounds like you can put this issue behind you and move on. The other combination or diagonals is challenging. We have the whip and coffin and the anchor here. And it is in relation to this man, the lily and man together. So there can be a few possibilities here. It can mean that this person is having issues in his life. It can be job related because of the lily. It can be broader. The whip and coffin can be an ending and not an easy one. And with the anchor, it's like a complete closure here. So this can go in a few ways. Again, this idea of parting is still on the table. The idea of him having to break off something or to put something to an end at his end is also possible. It's not very tough. It's not easy. I mean, it looks kind of tough, but it's still going to conclude the matter. Okay. What is interesting about the anchor is that it's a very strong card for, securing stuff, and so there is this idea that it closes, and it closes for real. So no more open-ended, no more pending issues, no loose ends. That's what I mean. There's like a real closure, and so this is where I feel that a real healing is possible, that we see in the bottom row and the right-hand side column here. But again, I think the transition is a bit bumpy. It is, there's a bit of there are some things that need to be worked through and really confronted and being real about before we can draw this line once and for all and to really close this chapter. Now there's a few more diagonals we can read. We've got the garden, mountain, moon, and sun, and clover. So here we're seeing the feminine and masculine aspects showing up together again, which is lovely. The garden with the mountain again suggests this idea of the opportunity to meet, and it wraps up with the clover. So I really think this is a message that could tell us the relationship is saved. There is, again, like we said from the beginning, there is this idea of an opportunity to get together where these issues are all confronted. The other one is garden, flowers, moon, scythe, and clover. This is a very strongly positive message as well. The flowers with the garden and moon is very much an invitation, and again, this idea of getting together. And the scythe on the other side of the clover is often a lucky break, and with the moon, it softens the sharpness of the scythe. But again, this is where we're seeing that things can be turned around. So these two diagonals that start in the middle cards and finish with the middle cards, the ones that goes up and then down and back up, and the reverse one, they are highlighting the likelihood of being able to turn around the situation. And this is, again, where I feel that the relationship can be saved. But I can't dismiss the strength of these cards. There is a need to really confront the issue, to finally draw the line. And I think this is a key dynamic in your portrait, your extended portrait, and that is that something needs to be purged in a very complete and final way, and in order to draw a really hard line and to really close the chapter and move on. Without this, it's going to remain hanging, incomplete, sort of, the loose ends are sort of flying around. It's not done, but what we're seeing in this portrait is that it needs to be done for real, and there is, of course, that strong focus on the relationship. And these lines here are very supportive of a positive conclusion, and like I said a few times already, being able to save the relationship. So the cards are supportive, and the answer, like the direct answer to the question is yes, this is going to be resolved. First of all, it does go through quite a test, and there is going to be a need to get together with this person, and there will be an opportunity to do that. And this is when the issues are purged in a pretty strong way, but then it's pretty final as well, which enables you to really draw the line and turn the page into a new chapter and move on and move forward in a sense of, in a space of healing and forgiveness. Also, in the process, there is some supportive information that comes through, something comes out, but also possibly some kind of secret or some information that you're privy to that turns to your advantage. Now, there are other structures that we can read, and I want to read them in this 3x5. The inner diamond. Look at this inner diamond. This is where I feel that this can be a third party. We have the man and woman, the whip, and coffin. And like we said, it's like this person needs to deal with something at his end. So this is where I'm getting a sense of a third party. And so the cards, they can also represent this third party relationship, not just you and the other person. The outer diamond, garden, whip, clover, and woman, is that confrontation element, or the meeting where there's the argument or the issue. But then we have the clover and the woman, so telling us that this is resolved, or it's part of what is needed in order to bring out resolution. And of course, I have to focus on your first card and the first corner cards here, because they help frame the overall reading, in addition to these lines that are sort of outcome kind of cards. Now, the moon is the central card of everything, and we've read it as part of the three central cards, but I have to add as well that the moon is a soft and gentle card, and it really helps with the transition. It does advise a sense of gentleness overall, despite the need for an honest confrontation and conversation. It might also ask you to be patient and to allow things to unfold. It's associated with the phases of the moon, and you can't really force the phases of the moon. It's sort of wiser to go through the steps and to allow the unfolding to happen. There is going to be that opportunity, and then there's going to be a confrontation. So changes and these steps and phases are in view, with a very positive conclusion. So overall, for this first reading, for the Silhouettes deck, the cards are positive. They bring a positive conclusion. They bring a positive resolution. But it comes through a bit of a bump, a bit of a confrontation, and maybe a tough conversation, given an opportunity to be with this person. But definitely healing and a strong conclusion, and like a firm and final conclusion is possible. I think you come out on top, successful, healed, and freed, and happy with the information that you learn, happy with the opportunity, and the positive conclusion. Now, I've read these cards in a very general way in the sense of what the dynamics are, but they can apply in all the contexts really. In a personal relationship, I think maybe the interpretation was most relevant to a personal relationship, but it can be a job situation, for example, where an ending clearly leads to a new beginning, where you could work through some issues and come out cleared with helpful information and either a new beginning or a positive conclusion moving forward. We're not really seeing financial matters, those sorts of areas. The cards are not really focused on the material aspects of life, but in the sense of work and this area, they can work out in a similar way. And with a relationship that is not all that personal, the same dynamics would apply. So overall, strong conclusion. Let me know what you made of these cards. Let me know what was your situation. If you're willing to share, I'm always interested to know. Leave me a comment or two. Very best of luck with bringing this to a head successfully. And I'm looking forward to your updates. As always, thank you for tuning into this reading. And until next time, take very good care of yourself. Welcome to the second reading. This is with Titania's fortune cards, and we are doing an extended portrait, a 3x5. Let us see how the situation resolves and take away many more insights, actually, not just a straightforward answer to this question. Okay, here is this exciting 3x5. We have quite a lot going on in here. We have a few standout elements. We have some very beautiful cards. We have the sun and the flowers at the two of the key corner cards here. We also have the child and the coffin at the diagonal here, clearly pointing to an ending and a beginning. And we have the man that figures in the cards, highlighting a person, along with the letter, which is a news element, and the bird as well. So the communication is figuring in the cards as well, probably suggesting that there's going to be an opportunity to talk about this or to communicate about it. Now, what stands out to me are a few things. The central cards here and this column here. So this central row carries a pretty strong message. There are some challenging cards here at the center, and they T-cross at this card here, the coffin, which is the ending. And this column is generally positive as well, but the central row is a bit of a challenging element here. What we do see is the scythe right in the middle of everything, and the scythe is a card of complete release and letting go, and we see it with these two challenging aspects here that are very much about the mind and the inner aspects of the situation. These cards are also the inner cards of the tableau. They are inside the outer frame. So there is a strong focus on this idea of how you feel about this, what is being thought about this. It looks like it's going to be key. What I think is very possible is that there's going to be a change of mind, and there's going to be something that happens with regards to how you feel, how you think about this, a change of perspective, a change of understanding, probably a breakthrough, but also a willingness to release the need to hang on to a perspective. It can be the release of needing to be right, for example, or the release of a certain way of looking at this or feeling about it a certain way. These inner cards are strong in this sense, and they also ask you to, I think, let go of anything like pride or self-righteous resentment, or maybe a sense of stubbornness or wanting to be right. There's going to be a need to release that, and to be willing to be a bit more flexible in the mind in order to see solutions come through. Now, solutions are definitely coming through, and a release is definitely coming through, but I also think that an ending is more likely than a renewal. And I say that because the flowers, typically with the coffin, can point to a renewal. But the renewal in this case is your sense of freedom, and not so much the idea of reviving what was. if you see what I mean. So let's weave these cards. I think there's quite a lot here, so let's go ahead and build it from the ground up. The first two corner cards are very beautiful cards. They are two of the brightest of the deck, and it's really nice to see the sun at the top here. The flowers with the sun, each of them together, they bring healing and release. This is very, very clear from the cards. The second set of corner cards is very interesting, the Fox and Moon. Typically, this points to an offer that turns out to be potentially a trap or that is not suited for you. And so it typically points to the idea of turning down an offer. Now, the reason I think this is important, and this is the way to look at these cards, because we can read the cards in many ways, right? But I think this is the meaning that stands out because of this column and this central row. The moon and coffin clearly points to the end of a phase. So with the Fox and Moon, it's best to let it go and to not re-engage. And so this is what creates a sense of liberation and healing. It is not the idea of going back, but it's the idea of letting go and moving on that is looking best for, like the best way forward and the way to resolve this. Now, it is a bit premature to say this, but I feel that this is going to suggest that it might not be resolved in the sense that you have like full closure, full understanding. It looks like you can drop it, you know, and that's how you can move on. And I think you're going to be very good at this. And it sounds like you're happy to get it off your shoulders. You know, so if you're already inclined to do this and to stop wondering about it and to stop maybe chewing over it, wanting to you know, for something to maybe come through or go back to it in a way or another, I think you're best just letting it go, especially with the Scythe as your central card. So very interesting dynamic so far. Let's now go into the big lines. We have the top row, and what stands out as well is the Sun and Moon. Now the Sun and Moon is typically a combination of a relationship because we have both the masculine and feminine, so it sort of, you know, brings this idea. And on top of this we have the man. Now the tree, child, man, and moon points to a new phase, a new growth, a new opportunity. And so I think this is, it looks like it is what is top of mind. Not only because it's the top row, but also because there are strong ending cards as well. So it sounds like you are in process of creating a new opportunity, and this is going to pull you out of the current situation that's, you know, the hanging situation that we're reading about. The cards here are a bit slower. You can take beginning steps, you can move forward in this, you know, but also take it gradually. We have both the tree and moon that are slower kind of cards. You know, they sort of go in layers and in steps, you know, through the tree's natural growth and the moon phases. You know, they're sort of slower cards. And with the child, it's, you know, a wonderful new beginning that grows into something beautiful. But again, the idea is to allow this beginning to unfold on its own time. And with the man in here, it can point to a new relationship, a new collaboration, a new involvement of sorts. It depends on the specific context that your situation is figuring in. But I think this is what's top of mind. It sounds like you just want to let it go in order to move on and embrace a new situation. You know, and this works well with the corner cards, this set and the other set. Now the central row is quite loaded. We have challenging cards and a clear message of an ending. Coffin is at the end of the line, really closing this off. Earlier, we have the bird and cross with the scythe and clouds along with the coffin. I think that there can be some regret about things that were said or unsaid, actually. There can be some regret around the missed opportunity or the things that could have taken place, but they haven't. And also, like I said, maybe some sharpness in words exchanged. Now, what I'm seeing in this sign is that you can't really fix that, okay? So the best way forward is to just drop it and let it go, and you don't have to think about this anymore. It's probably not something you can resolve as well. So this can mean a bit of a loose end. It's not like you can go back, but it's not really a loose end if you're willing to let it go. You know, if you realize that it's done and you don't have to do anything about this anymore, and you can move on. The scythe, clouds, and coffin is clearly a combination of an ending. I have to say though that it's a bit of a difficult ending. I feel with the clouds and the bird and cross, something is really weighing on you and it's causing you confusion, but really the advice of the cards is to just drop it and to change your mind about it. And it might help to appreciate that you can't go back and change it, but you can let it go and move forward. So that's what we're seeing in the cards. It's best to let this go. In the bottom row, we have strong cards. We have the flowers that wraps up the line, which is a lovely card of healing and renewal and encouragement and optimism. I do sense a bit of a work element here. It sounds like, it's not really a personal relationships or those kinds of connections. We have the fox, which can be about work. We have the bear, which can be about managers. So I'm sort of thinking, with the anchor, letter, and flowers, you could have a new opportunity. It can be a promotion. It can be some good news that helps lift you up to the next stage, letting go of this situation. So this would work well in a work environment, but regardless, the cards are pointing to some very good news and news that helps, sort of refresh your perspective, renew your energy, give you a green light to move forward, and give you more optimism and enthusiasm moving forward. I really like the flowers in this part of a tableau because I feel that this bottom card is like a gathering card, whereas the first card is the opening. It opens up the tableau. So it's a very beautiful card where all of the lines are sort of pouring into, and it's a very optimistic card and it delivers on hopes. It is also a wish fulfilling and a healing card, which is great in relation to the question that we're asking. Now the fox, anchor, and bear, I really feel points to a sense of standing your ground, asking for what you need, demanding what you need, and also having good boundaries. I think that with the fox cornering the moon here, there is this idea that you don't want to go with anything just to go. You want to make sure that it supports you, and if some opportunities are not aligned with you, you want to turn them down, and you want to stick with what actually works for you. And you find that if you are committed to your values, your mission, your goals, and your priorities, you'll find that you'll be able to manifest that. I also think that here you could get help from someone reliable and someone strong and protective. I think maybe they're potentially a bit tricky and they require a certain way of talking to them, certainly in diplomatic and kind ways, but they are supportive and they can bring you some good news that helps you forward. Now, in relation to this ending situation, I really think that it could be what is materializing from the top cards. We saw this beginning highlighted in the top row. In the bottom row, I feel that things become more tangible. You can start working towards them and you can take steps towards them. So here it's like the seed that is planted, that is growing, that is in process. And then in the bottom row, there's like, the tangible steps forward. There's the news, the anchor, the strong bear. They materialize, into forward movement. And certainly movement in a direction that answers your hopes. Let's continue to the columns here. We have the sun with the bird and fox. Now, these two together can be a little bit tricky, but the sun is quite overpowering. So there can be some good news, and I really think this has to do with negotiations or talking. And to some extent, the fox, being a clever card, it would ask you to be discerning and to be selective about the things that you talk about. Some things you talk about, other things you keep under your hat. The tree, cross, and anchor is really solid in terms of standing your ground and sticking with it. And also, I think it has to do with finding your foundation. I also think that, with the cross being part of this challenging central row where we said that you can't really go back and, change it. You should just drop it and move on. this column here really highlights your commitment to growing out of this and moving past it. You have to. I really think the cross suggests that, and in time you'll be able to turn around and focus on the tangible stuff, like we see in the bottom row, on what you can negotiate, your sense of foundation, your advantages here, and what seems to be part of this conversation that helps you move forward. Now the central column, very strong column here because of the scythe. This is a change. Like really, there's no two ways around this with the child and scythe and the bear. The bear here is about really having the strength to let it go. And the scythe is quite sharp, so it's really not, the letting go part is non-negotiable at this point. It has to be dropped, and you have to move forward. In a way, the cards are kind of aggressive. They're asking you not to dwell on this anymore, not to drag your feet and just wondering what can be done about it. The cards are clear here. You can't really fix it. You can't really go back and change it. You have to just drop it and be willing to see things in a different way moving forward. The man, clouds, and letter can cause a bit of an issue. The communication might not be clear. There can be some confusion. I suspect that this can also be part of the hanging on bit, where maybe you try to figure things out, but honestly, I'm not seeing that. I'm not seeing that there is understanding. Do you see what I mean? It's like you can't be on the same page. Like you have to agree to disagree kind of scenario. And we see the ending clearly in the last column here, which is actually relieving because of the flowers. So really the way the tableau is answering how this issue is resolved is really that it's not genuinely resolved as such. It's more like it has to be let go of. This is how you resolve it. You resolve it by letting it go. And when I opened this reading, the Pick-A-Card at the beginning in the introduction, I said that the how is part of the if. It is resolved. I feel they come together, and this is like a tableau that really demonstrates that. The idea is that you have to just move on, because you can't go back to it to undo, what happened. Okay, this is clearly coming through in the tableau. You're best just moving on, and it's a lot of inner work, a work on your mind, on your thinking, not to stay stuck in it. Try to see it in a different way, and to let go of the regrets and the could have beens and those those thoughts. They're not helpful, and you can let go, and you'll find that once you do, you could surprise yourself at how relieved you are. So work on the new and not so much on what happened. Work towards this new beginning and the new relationship, the new involvements, and that will move you away from that situation. And work on the tangible steps, so that it really helps you, to push you forward. So these are for the columns, quite powerful, and I think we're getting a really clear answer from the cards as well. It's helpful to know that you're best just moving on, not trying to undo or fix what had gone by. Now let's read some diagonals, because there is more that we can read in these cards. We've got the sun, the cross, and the bear into the clouds and moon. So this has both a bright and a sort of a challenging side. And I feel this captures well the transition that you're sort of into or will get into. This is a really bright side. It really points to strength and ambitions, and the sense of, that you're willing to bear the cross if you like. It's actually quite literal. The idea of this part, I really feel, is that you want to take responsibility for your part in this, and acknowledge the mistakes, maybe, shall we say, or the bad judgment, shall we say, depending on what happened exactly. The clouds and moon tends to bring out the darker side of the moon. So again, it's a bit like the regret cards, or the mind aspect of this, where you feel that it's still weighing on you, and you're not sure how to look at this. I think maybe one helpful approach is that you sort of take responsibility for your share in this and what had gone by, and maybe revisit it you know, with a bit of a different perspective, a fresh perspective. And you could find that you gain some insights about yourself, about the situation, which will help you move forward and to maybe not repeat the pattern again coming forward. The other diagonal here, we've got the fox cross into the child and the clouds and flowers. So here I feel that this is where you move towards the new beginning. With the fox and cross, you sort of have to. Again, I'm seeing the cross as a bit of a burden here. There is that sense of just, you know, pick yourself up and move forward. The fox is potentially tricky, but one thing it's really good at being disciplined. So again, I'm tying this with the bottom row where we're seeing some tangible steps, you know, being down to earth, getting things done. So get busy with your life, with your priorities, your work, the next opportunities, and try to get busy with this as you move away from the situation. The child into the clouds and flowers, a little bit tricky because of the clouds, but really in this sense, it's, you know, just not knowing everything about this new beginning. It's still in transition. The clouds with the flowers can be good for creativity, so really trying to be more flexible in the mind. Like we said, there's a lot of focus on this aspect for you in this reading, the idea of how you look at this, your perspective. So try to be a bit more flexible, try to think a little bit outside the box, try to distance yourself from the situation. All of this is part of growing out of it and letting it go. So again, getting busy with the day-to-day and your next steps, and also trying to look at things a little bit differently moving forward. There are some more diagonals. We have the bird, tree, into the scythe, letter, and coffin. This is clearly a combination of an ending. The scythe and the tree is about uprooting, and the scythe and the coffin is the combination of a pretty final ending. Both of these cards are, interestingly enough, communication cards, so there can be some kind of announcement or perhaps a green light or some indication that really helps you to let it go. The other one is the bird, anchor, scythe, man, and coffin. So another very strong combination here. The tree and scythe is a bit like the anchor and scythe. They have a lot in common because these two cards are sort of, you know, they rooted, they go underground to sort of keep you in place. And with the scythe, it really releases that. So with the tree, I read it as an uprooting, and with the anchor, I sort of visualize it as releasing yourself from a ball and chain, because the anchor is sort of that, you know, chain that holds you down. Clearly, there is a release and an ending, and it wraps up with the man and coffin. So this relationship is clearly ending. And again, I feel that the cards are not very easy, and they do tell us that it could be a tough transition. What they clearly tell us is that it's not about going back. It's not about fixing it. It's about just letting it go. So we're seeing this message recurring across the different lines, the different structures, the different parts of the layout pretty clearly. So I'm pretty confident that we can draw this conclusion for you. I can't say that this is an easy transition. I can't say that it might be easy for you to let go. I feel that you're a bit stuck, you know, psychologically in this situation. The cards are helpful in giving you ideas about what you can do to move forward. You can move into new beginnings. You can negotiate these new beginnings. You can get busy with them, you know, create some kind of routine or disciplines to help you move forward. Really trying to focus on the more tangible things so that you can start to move away from, you know, the issues that, you know, that keep you stuck in this situation. So the message is quite interesting. The message is also unique, you know, telling us that it's not something you can fix or undo at this point, and that you're best just dropping it and releasing it and moving on into a new beginning. The man's role in the reading can be different people in different circumstances. Because of this very strong diagonal here where we see a clear ending with this person, in this diagonal he could be someone you let go of, and in the top row he could be someone you are in talks with for a new beginning. And I read these cards in a very general way, like I normally do before I sort of think about how it can apply to different contexts. In a work environment, in a career sort of situation, it is very clear that you are changing jobs, at least roles. If you're staying within a certain place, there's a bigger change within that place, but I think it can be a move altogether. And it sounds like this comes after a lot of thought, a lot of stress as well. It's the right thing to do, clearly, from the cards. In relationships, the cards can be a bit tougher because we could be looking at a breakup. And even though the flowers can give a bit of hope in terms of renewing the relationship, I really think that with the fox and moon and the strong central row and all of the other diagonals and the combinations, really the balance is tipping towards the idea of letting go of the relationship. Give yourself a break from this, let go, and move in a new direction. Give yourself a change and let it go. So from a relationship perspective, it can be a bit trickier. It doesn't have to be a personal relationship. It can be another relationship. It can be a friendship. It can be, who knows, even a family relation. It depends on your specifics. But in relationships, we're looking at a likely scenario of an ending and the need to let it go. I'm not seeing so much finance cards, money cards, but still the work sort of interpretation can apply as well. The need to make a deep change and to move in a different direction is highlighted. So these are the two main areas where I think the dynamics, make very good sense. You can leave me a comment, tell me what context you're looking at, what is your situation exactly, and let me know how the cards play out for you. So for this reading, Titania's cards, we are looking at the need to let it go and not trying to fix it. A time to turn the page, a bit of a tough transition, but this is how it resolves, as it were. So let me know how you like this reading. Let me know what you made of it. Really looking forward to your comments as always. Best of luck with this somewhat tough transition. Keep your feet on the ground and move forward in this way. And in time, you will move past it. Very best of luck. And as always, thank you as always for tuning back in. Very best of luck with this. Until next time, as always, thank you for watching and take very good care of yourself. Okay, this is the third deck. This is the Palimpsest deck. And like I said, we're going to be doing an extended portrait, a 3x5. Let's go ahead and see how this situation is resolved for you. So keep tuning into that. And I am ready to deal out your cards. Okay, here is your set of cards, your extended portrait. And really, for you, Palimpsest group, the scythe stands out. I saw this in another reading, and it sort of reminds me of it. But the way it unfolds after this central scythe energy is a little bit different from the other reading. Well, very different from the other reading. Now, obviously, the scythe is a sharp card. It has to do with releasing and letting go. And so this is a very clear message that the way this resolves is by letting it go. I want to put a bit of hold on this and not make it like a final conclusion, because there are some interesting things happening in the last two columns here that can sort of change a little bit the energy of the scythe, or the how the scythe operates in a reading. But clearly, still, as a central card in the entire extended portrait, it has a strong message of letting go and releasing yourself from this situation. So we're going to weave all of this together, and we'll see how the scythe operates within the bigger spread. Something else that stands out before we do that is the man and the woman sitting together right next to each other in the bottom row. The bottom row looks supportive with the anchor in the middle, and these cards are pretty neutral. The rider is generally positive, though. The anchor is also supportive, so it sounds like here there is a positive forward movement between these two people. This can be about a relationship. On this note, we also have the heart. And so we're going to see when it weaves all together how these cards play out. So let's go ahead and get into the detail with these bigger spreads. It makes a lot of sense to build it from the ground up, even though we can get some highlights from this bird's eye view. So starting with the corner cards, we have the Lily and the Rider. This is usually a supportive combination for going after your goals, your bigger goals. The Lily can also be associated with your career. And I think this is possibly in focus because in the other corner cards, we have the Fish. And the Fish is mainly the card of money. So this material, practical aspect of your life could be highlighted. And with the Rider here, there can be some positive forward movement. There can be news or a message. This can also be supported by the Woman in the second set because the Woman and Rider can represent people, someone helpful, someone who brings some news that affects or that has implications on your work and your career. So from looking at the corner cards, we get a sense that there is news, contact, communication that probably affects your work, your career, and the more practical aspects of your life. Now, like I said, the central scythe is pretty sharp, but when we take it also with the Cross and Heart, which are the central cards inside the outer frame of the extended portrait, we have a pretty challenging combination for you, Palimpsest group. We have the scythe next to the heart, which is typically a heartbreak in a very straightforward way, and we have the cross. The cross can go in a few ways, but when it comes to challenging cards, its challenging aspects also come through. So when we see these three cards together, we could be looking at something painful, something that has been, maybe you have regrets about it, and it also requires you to let go, and maybe you're feeling like you want to hang on. These central cards admittedly are quite challenging, and they affect the emotions, they affect how you feel. There is a heavy heart, there can be regret, there can be pain and a heartbreak, and all of these, of course. So in the context of how to deal with this situation, how to resolve it, the scythe remains clear. It's clear that you need to let it go. And also with something like the cross, and we'll see with the bear earlier, you also want to spare yourself the burden of having to carry this weight on your shoulders. Maybe you need to give yourself a break and not burden yourself so much with this. The scythe can be relieving and freeing. Even if it hurts, it might be that you need to weigh the situation and decide, well, is it easier to just work with this, or is it easier to let it go? Which one is in my best interest? Which one I should go for? So these are some pretty challenging cards that bring some hurt, some pain, some emotions into the picture. Let's move on to the big rows here, starting with the top row. We have the Lily, as we saw with the corner cards. We have the Mouse and the Clouds, and the Child and the Fish. So the Child and Fish is a very bright combination. It's really nice for a new beginning with your work, your money, your business, with the practical side of things. And it seems to come after some losses. So the Mouse is a card essentially of loss. And with the Lily, it sounds like it's been going on for a while. So it sounds like it's been a dwindling situation, maybe sort of something that was just falling through, not necessarily very fast, but maybe over some time. And the Clouds adds to the challenges of the Mouse. The Clouds tends to be a psychological card, really focused on the mind. And with the Mouse, yes, there can be physical losses, but there can also be psychological ones where you feel stressed and drained and just really tired of a whole phase. That is probably what you need to get out of at this point. And it's really nice to see the Child and Fish because they're both bright and they come on the other side of these challenges. So it's clear that you'll be able to turn the page. And with the money element here, this can be a new lease of life for you with work, with your business, with another practical side of things. If you weren't so great with money, you could be turning the page into a more prosperous chapter. and maybe you're growing up about a few things in these aspects of life. So a nice message here after a phase of sort of loss and stress and really things not working out so well. In the second row, we have the challenging cards that we talked about in the central cards here. The line starts off with the bear, and the bear is another pretty strong card. It really supports the cross, and I really feel this is about bearing this cross in a very literal sense, as you can probably work out for yourself. And I mean, this is how Lenormand can be so, so just clear in the words that it speaks. So this heavy thing needs to go off your shoulders, and even if it's a bit painful, it can feel like you're ripping yourself out of it. It's really nice to see the key at the end of the line. And this is where I felt that even though I saw the scythe in another reading, with the key here, it's a bit of a different situation. The key is a card of success, of unlocking potential. It's also very good with being resourceful. It's an empowering card. The bear is also empowering, so it really sounds like you want to take charge of this, and you want to take the initiative to release yourself from this burden. Even if it's a little bit painful, you'll find that it is the right thing for you to do. The key opens doors. It also opens hearts. And both the bear and the key are resourceful in the sense that the bear is a card of strength and support and responsibility. It is the card of leadership. And the key is all about tuning into your intelligence, your sense of resourcefulness. So you've got what it takes to deal with this. Even if it's a little bit painful, you'll find that maybe the rational aspect of your mind really helps you through this, to convince you that you are doing the right thing, and that the painful aspect of this, the painful part or the transition, is something you'll be able to overcome. So strong cards that really encourage you to take charge. Now the bottom row, we've got the woman and man. Clearly this is a relationship. We have the anchor and the letter and rider. And I think because the anchor is a powerful card for conclusion, it's very likely that the news answers your hopes or is able to finalize something. It brings clarity and a conclusion. The rider and letter are both messenger cards, and so with the anchor, it's clear that some communication, some paperwork, some news, whatever format exactly the information takes for you, it does bring a positive conclusion. And with the woman and man earlier, it suggests that this is happening between them, and so I think this is about understanding and reaching some kind of agreement and some kind of like getting on the same page about how to move forward or how to resolve this issue. So in the context of the scythe, I think that it can mean a few things. First, it doesn't change the idea that you need to get out of this bad situation that we saw here that was sort of dwindling away. But it, as we saw with the bear and key, it does suggest this idea of taking charge. This can mean no more messing with you, no more taking advantage of you. This cannot be wasted anymore. You can't waste time. You can't waste resources on this anymore. You have to draw a sharp line. And I think that when you're willing to take a strong stand like that, people will respond with support and will sort of respect the boundaries that you're setting. And this can lead to a better understanding, to getting on the same page, to be willing to communicate about this until there's a sound conclusion. So I think at least this is one way the cards can play out. Let's continue with the columns here. We've got the lily, bear, and woman. In my dictionary, I sometimes take the lily and bear to suggest things that are related to the law. So with the woman, there can be a lawyer. She could be a lawyer, or she could be part of this legal situation. This is one way. Perhaps the situation that you're dealing with has a legal element or some kind of official or administrative element that has been probably causing you quite a bit of headache. And this is where you need to draw a sharp line with how it moves forward. This is a more specific kind of way to interpret the cards. More generally, the lily and bear can point to someone supportive. It can also represent parents, a parent like a mom with the woman here. And often the bear is associated with the mother as opposed to the house, which is associated with the father in the Lenormand deck. The lily tends to represent people who are older, seniors, and people with more experience. And so these cards can point to someone who is maybe more in a leadership position, more experienced, someone supportive, a parent, or someone of influence with a certain level of authority in your life, and they seem to play a part in what is going on. Now, how they play a part exactly, I think that too can take on different possibilities depending on your specific scenario, but I do think that if you need the support of someone expert, or someone supportive, or someone who can have your back, as it were, I think it's a good idea to tap into that person, because it sounds like, releasing yourself from this situation can require like a certain level of knowledge, or you need to know that you are doing the right thing. You need to be sure. So in that sense, you want to tap into someone who is expert or supportive in these ways. Otherwise, they could just also be part of the reason you're getting out of the situation. So that's another scenario. Sometimes the bear can be a little bit overbearing, and the bear is in this challenging line. So it can represent someone who's sort of been just weighing on you, and you need to get them off your back. And we see the weight here, we see the weight here, and the scythe that releases you from this. So this column could be suggesting that this woman is that person who is heavy, on you, and you need to give yourself elbow room. At the same time, we have the man that could also be that person. We have the mouse, cross, and man, and these are challenging cards, actually more so than the lily and bear. The mouse is typically standardly a negative card, and with the cross, we're seeing again this sense of heaviness, the weight, the drag, the drain. There is like this mouse energy is like eating away, draining the energy, draining your patience. And so with the man here, it can suggest that this is the person who's been, who's just been heavy in that sense. I could also suggest that there could be a situation between these two. This can be a reference to your parents. This can be a divorce. This can be a separation between two people that has an impact on your situation. And it can be you separating from a relationship. That too is possible. Now, the Cloud, Scythe, and Anchor, these are bright cards. I know you're going to say, well, how are they bright? Well, I think the Scythe makes them bright. And, I get comments sometimes, when I post about the card meanings on Instagram and Facebook and, the card combinations. And recently, I think someone suggested, if I recall correctly, that the Scythe is typically negative. And I don't necessarily agree with that. I think the Scythe is, yes, by itself, it's kind of sharp and it causes risk and potentially danger. But it does have a bright side. When you need to release yourself from something, when you need to let go of something, it gives that kind of freedom, your ability to sharply release yourself from something. And that is very much the case with the Clouds as well as with the Anchor. The Anchor, in the sense, is a bit like a ball and chain, holding you down, holding you back. The Clouds is about that sense of confusion, this nebulous situation. And in both combinations, the Scythe helps you to slice through this and to release yourself from it. This is a very clear message that is coming through the 3x5 extended portrait for you, and it is the central column, and it does T-cross this powerful middle line. So definitely a release from this situation is needed for the resolution. And also you need to free your mind and free your feelings. So again, I'm seeing this inner element that is strongly at play for you. It's not just the outer circumstance. Now, the Child, Heart, and Letter is a very beautiful combination. The heart and letter is wonderful news. It can be loving news, or it's just happy news. And with the child, it's about this new beginning. So very much a message of hope and hopefulness, and the idea of being able to turn the page. It could come through from this news, as we saw a T crosses the bottom line, where I suggested that there is understanding and a good conclusion, positive conclusion moving forward. So I feel that this turns the page for you and you're able to break free and break away from this tough situation, to be fair. And the last column is great. It's also lovely. Like I said, there was at the outset, these two columns are very bright, and so they sort of, I felt they would change a little bit how the scythe operates, but actually the scythe liberates you into the good stuff coming in here. So the fish and key is great for money, all around success, financially, business-wise, work-wise, in other practical areas of your life. The fish is also sometimes this card of ambition, like beyond the material. And so you could be on track now to achieve your goals with the key and rider, heading in the right direction, opening up that potential, engaging yourself in bigger ambitions. So these two columns here are freeing, and they bring a wonderful new beginning, and they come after the more challenging cards here, where we see the scythe, the bear, the mouse, and the clouds, so there is that sense of release that enables you to embrace a new beginning. And I feel this is how the situation is resolved for you. So you need to release yourself from the situation. I also think you really need to cut yourself some slack. Like, you really need to get this off your back. There's no need for this to weigh so much on you. Just get it off your back, and you'll find that you have elbow room to embrace a new beginning that is at hand for you. So that's the way to resolve it. The way to resolve it is to let it go. That's how it is resolved. Now, I don't necessarily think that the resolution is potentially in the bottom row. I think the bottom row is more about standing your ground, and I think potentially making some demands, So at this point, you're not going to negotiate so much anymore. You're going to stand your ground, and you're going to say, this is not working anymore. This has to go. This is what's going to work out. And I think when you're able to create a sharp, when you put out this sharp energy, you'll find that people, like I said earlier, they're willing to respect your boundaries more. So it's almost like my way or the highway at this point. Like, no more waste, no more drain, no more carrying this unnecessary weight over your shoulders. It's a sharp line at this point. You like it, good. You don't like it, out. And I think because of the bottom row and the collaboration and communication that we're seeing here, I feel that people are going to say, oh, okay, we'll come to an understanding. And this opens the doors, and it's, you're able to move forward. So put your foot down. That's a good way of putting it. Put your foot down. There's more to read in here. Well, there's lots, but we don't cover every single technique that I can cover. You can always look at the master courses and the master guides for all of the possible techniques that we can read in these tableau style layouts. Let's look at some diagonals. So the two main ones, we have the woman, cross, clouds, heart, and rider. I think this doesn't add too much to what we just said. I think this important decision and making your mind up to go after the things you like. It's nice to see the heart and rider on the other side of this. So it looks like you're able to overcome, the cross and clouds, the decision, thinking, maybe the regret, just sort of chewing all of this over this stuff and moving on. The other one is the lily, cross, anchor, heart, and fish. This is also a supportive combination thanks to the heart and fish mainly. But in the cards here, I think there are some pretty powerful messages. The lily and cross are both bigger life kind of cards. Yes, the cross can be challenging, but it also has to do with life lessons and matters of destiny sometimes, about the things that are meant to be for you, not just the things you're obligated to do, but also the things that are meant for you. And the lily is a card of life path in general. So it sounds like there are some important lessons that you're taking away from this. And the anchor is also a strong card. So it sounds like you really have a strong foundation at this point. And I feel that at this point, no longer compromise. You have to be solid and strong and sharp so that people can respect this boundary and come to the table, as it were, with with a better solution moving forward. And we see that again. This opens these lovely doors here in the last two columns. So a strong message in these two. Again, you see why I'm seeing there's a lot of the psychological element where it has to do with you and how you feel, how strong you feel, your conviction. The no longer wanting to mess around. Like making up your mind about certain things. It's like things firm up in your mind, in your heart. And it has an energy that pours out, that people pick up, that sense of strength and feeling solid. There's a couple more diagonals: the bear, mouse, scythe, letter, and key. So again, this is where I feel there is this no more element. The bear with the mouse and scythe is like really being strong about stopping the bleeding, stopping the waste, stopping this thing that isn't working, being sharp in your communication. And this again, I feel, is what leads to the key. So it's possible that you were still negotiating up to this point. You were willing to compromise. You were sort of giving and taking. At this point, we're seeing that no more. You have to draw a really sharp line. And the way this is actually effective in life, really, is when you truly are inside. You have that strong conviction and you're not going to be messed with, and that's it. No means no, and people pick up when you mean it. So it's really building yourself up to that. The other one is the bear, man, scythe, child, and key. So this breaks through into this new beginning that is really lovely to see with the key. So again, this comes with opportunity. The opportunity on the other side of the release is very clearly highlighted in the cards. With the other readings, it was more about the whole focus was on the resolution. In your cards, we see what's on the other side of this as well. So that's what the cards are showing us. So we see this in the second diagonal. There's a breakthrough into a new beginning. It can mean that you separate from this person, this burdensome situation, or these burdensome people. It could be a couple or more. And there is this new beginning. I've read the cards as like a general dynamic, but we could read them in different contexts. Two main contexts always stand out for me in these forecasts: the work/money, and the relationship aspect. So the work/money, it depends on how you work, what your life looks like. The idea here is breaking out of what looks like a bad arrangement into a new opportunity that's looking really good and prosperous. So at this point, there's no more negotiating, no more, throwing money at something that isn't working, or beating a dead horse, or just trying to save something from sinking. At this point, you want out and to go into a new beginning. So that is a bright message. When it comes to relationships, these sorts of dynamics can always be a little bit more challenging, because the changes that are represented by something like a scythe tend to suggest a breakup, and this typically is more challenging for people. And we do have the relationship element. So with the in this portrait here, if you look at these cards here, it's quite there's quite a challenging kind of message where there is the mouse scythe with the man and bear. That can suggest a break off. There is the break off here. The anchor can sort of save it, but I think what it does, as we saw in the other line, is not so much save it as much as it puts things on a more secure footing for you. So again, the idea of no longer negotiating, no longer messing about, just drawing a sharp line. In the context of relationships, it can point to a breakoff, like I said, but there seems to be a really wonderful new beginning here. The heart and the key and the rider, with the child, these are really bright cards for a relationship as well. And they come on the other side of what seems to be a separation break off, a fall through. In some scenarios, when you have both the man and the woman, and I also got that, I believe, in another one of the readings, it can be a love triangle scenario where the triangle collapses, basically, so one of the relationships falls through, and this could open the door for a new relationship. This can apply for some scenarios. But overall, in terms of the dynamics, regardless of context, the cards are really strong and clear about the need to get out and release yourself from this and embrace a new opportunity. I feel there's a focus on your mind, your feelings, your inner world. You need to go within and also work things out on the inside as well so that it's effective on the outside. I think this is very clear in your cards as well. Really building up that conviction, your sense of strength, so that you're taken seriously. When you say no, finish, that's it. People are like, okay, So that is on you, to be strong inside, to have the conviction inside so that it is met outside as well. So a powerful spread, I have to say, for you, Palimpsest group. I certainly look forward to your thoughts and your feedback about this. I'd be interested to know what your situation was. What is this area that needed resolution that you focused on, if you're willing to share. So leave me a comment or two. I always look forward to reading them. Very best of luck with this. Build yourself on the inside. It's really important. And let me know how it works out. As always, thank you so much for tuning in. Very best of luck again. And until next time, take very good care of yourself.